Today, we're talking about a force under fire. This is the story of the Assam Rifles, one of India's oldest paramilitary forces, now caught right in the middle of a brutal ethnic conflict in Manipur. So let's get into it.
For months now, since May 2023, the state of Manipur has been absolutely engulfed in violence. And look, this isn't just some small skirmish. It's a full-blown ethnic war that has ripped communities apart, pitting the majority Meitei community against the Kuki-Zo tribes. And who's stuck right in the middle of all this chaos? The Assam Rifles. And this is where things get truly shocking. The state's own police force filed a formal complaint, an FIR, against the Assam Rifles. I mean, just think about that for a second. That's one arm of state security accusing another of, well, not just failing to do its job, but of actively getting in the way. So this brings us to the big question, the one we're trying to unpack today. How on earth did a force with a history stretching back almost 200 years end up in this position, accused of bias and losing the trust of the very people it's meant to protect? To figure that out, you first have to know who the Assam Rifles really are. So, let's rewind. Before we can understand the crisis of today, we have to look at the force's long history, and crucially, its very, very unique structure.
I mean, these guys go way back. Established in 1835, they are the oldest paramilitary force in India. They fought in World War I and II, the Sino-Indian War, and for decades, they've been the main force guarding that incredibly tough Indo-Myanmar border. They have a long and decorated past, no doubt about it. But here's the twist, and believe me, it's a big one. What makes the Assam Rifles totally different from any other force is its command structure. It's complicated.
You see, they're split. The Ministry of Home Affairs handles all the admin stuff, salaries, hiring, buying equipment. But when it comes to what they actually do on the ground, their deployments, their strategy, that's all controlled by the Indian Army under the Ministry of Defense. This dual control system is right at the heart of the mess they're in today.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's zoom out a bit. The Assam Rifles aren't operating in a vacuum. They're trying to keep the peace in a state that has been violently and maybe permanently torn in two. To get what's happening, you need a quick mental map of Manipur. The majority Meitei community, that's about 53% of the population, mostly lives down in the central Imphal Valley. The hills all around them are home to different tribal groups, mostly the Naga and the Kuki-Zo tribes. And this split isn't just about geography, it's a deep cultural and political divide. Now, this violence didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The roots are deep. The immediate spark was a court order that suggested giving the Meiteis scheduled tribe status, which the tribal groups saw as a direct threat to their land and their rights. But that was just the spark on a pile of dry kindling. Decades of fights over land, controversial eviction drives, and these really toxic narratives about narco-terrorism and illegal immigration.
And the human cost? It's just staggering. More than 60,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. 60,000! That's an entire town's worth of people turned into refugees in their own state. It's a catastrophe.
So what you have on the ground now is a grim new reality. This state has been effectively partitioned along ethnic lines. Métis have been driven from the hills, and you won't find any Kuki-Zo left in the valley. It's a state divided by buffer zones, often patrolled by armed militias.
Which brings us right back to the Assam Rifles. How is any security force supposed to do its job in a place that's so violently polarized?
Well, if you ask many in the Meitei community, the feeling is one of complete betrayal. Groups like the Meitei, who are these really influential women activists, they are openly accusing the Assam Rifles of siding with the Kuki-Zo tribes, of just standing by as their homes burn. For them, the trust is gone. It's completely broken.
But of course, the story is more complicated than that. It's not that the force is just choosing not to act. The truth is their hands are tied by a very specific government policy that has created an operational nightmare for them.
And at the heart of it is something called the Suspension of Operations Agreement, the SOO. Basically, it's an official ceasefire with a number of Kuki armed groups. And a key part of that deal is that these groups get to stay in designated camps with their weapons, and the Assam Rifles is ordered not to disarm them.
So do you see the impossible situation? It's a classic catch-22. Up in the hills, they're accused of doing nothing, but that's because the SOO agreement prevents them from going after armed Kuki groups. But then, down in the valley, they don't have the special powers to act on their own, so they have to depend on the state police, the same police force that's accusing them of siding with the enemy. They're paralyzed, and for totally different reasons depending on where they are.
So, where does all of this leave them? Well,
This paralysis on the ground has kicked off a major political battle back in New Delhi over the entire future of the Assam Rifles.
Because naturally, when a force appears this ineffective, the people in charge start asking questions. And the crisis in Manipur has basically thrown gasoline on a long-simmering debate about who should really be in control of the Assam Rifles.
And this is that tug of war. On one side, you have the Ministry of Home Affairs, which wants full control to bring them in line with all the other border forces. On the other side, you have the Ministry of Defense and the Army, arguing that, hey, our system has worked for decades and our expertise is vital in the Northeast. So the whole unique identity of the Assam Rifles is now up for debate.
Which leaves us with this one final, really difficult question. When the very force that's supposed to keep the peace is trapped between conflicting orders, hobbled by political deals, and completely distrusted by half the population, who is left to actually enforce the peace?